Alright, so remember when video games were fun? When you paid $60 for a complete experience and didn't feel like you needed a second mortgage just to unlock Darth Vader? Yeah, I am looking at you, Star Wars Battlefront 2. So let's talk Electronic Arts. The name alone is enough to make seasoned gamers rage click. They aren't just a publisher anymore, they're a case study in corporate greed. Today we aren't just talking about bad games, we're talking about a 40-year legacy of arrogance, exploitation, and calculated destruction of art for profit. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of how EA became the most hated name in gaming. Let's get into it. So just like most downfall stories, to understand the fall, we have to look back at the beginning. EA started in 1982. For a while, they were actually the good guys. They treated developers as artists. They gave us John Madden Football, Wing Commander, and The Sims. I mean, these guys built franchises that defined childhoods. But somewhere in the mid-2000s, the soul left the building, the artists went out the door, and the shareholders came in. Which leads us to the numbers, because to EA, that's all that matters. As of 2025, EA is a beast. We're talking about a market cap hovering around $51 billion. They employ roughly 14,500 people. But here's the catch. Look at their revenue. In fiscal year 2024, they put in 7.56 billion, but by 2025, that number slipped to 7.46 billion, a drop of over 1%. For a company that size, stagnation is really the first sign of rot. So where does that money come from? Because it sure as hell isn't from selling games anymore. It's from you. It's from live services. In 2025, 73% of their revenue came from microtransactions, battle passes, and ultimate team packs. You are not a player. You are a recurring revenue stream. Now look at their market share. In the software and programming industry, EA holds about 2.16%. That's small, but look at who's eating the lunch. Microsoft holds 90%. EA isn't even the biggest fish in the pond anymore. They're desperately trying to squeeze every drop of blood out of a stone because they're terrified of losing relevance to giants like Microsoft and Tencent. Let's backtrack a bit to the crime scene of 2017, Star Wars Battlefront 2. Here's what a Reddit post from one of the top guys at EA said. The intent is to provide players with a sense of pride and accomplishment for unlocking different heroes. This is the most downvoted comment in Reddit history. And why? Because players actually calculated that to unlock Darth Vader, you needed to play the game for 4,528 hours or pay $2,100. Yep, $2,100 for a character that shipped in the base game of the first Star Wars Battlefront game that released in 2015 for free. Think about it, Darth Vader was free in the first game, but in the follow-up you needed to grind or you needed to pay up. Now this wasn't a mistake, it was a stress test. EA wanted to know exactly how much they could squeeze before the pipe burst. They got caught with their hands in the cookie jar, so they ran to E3 2018 with their tails behind their legs and said, "We heard you, no loot boxes in Battlefield 5, we learned our lesson." Most of us hardcore gamers actually remember E3 2018 and were like, oh really? Then why at the same time was their CFO admitting that the Ultimate Team mode, which is just a loot box mechanism, was generating $1.3 billion a year? They didn't abandon loot boxes, they just hid them better in sports games they knew regulators wouldn't touch. This is the games as a service model. It means releasing a half-finished game, promising to fix it later, hoping you stick around to buy a skin. Here's a perfect example, Apex Legends. When Season 1 of Apex Legends dropped, it was free to play and it was fun and enjoyable. But by Season 2, they slowly started implementing Season Passes, and these Season Passes kept on getting more and more expensive as the game progressed in future seasons. Because I mean, this is EA guys. Do we really think they could give us a free-to-play game and not find a way of milking money off these players? But the gamers aren't the only victims here. Let's take a walk through the EA graveyard. They buy studios for their talent and their IPs, bleed them dry, and then throw them away. It started in the early 2000s, they acquired Origin Systems, the geniuses behind Ultima, and pushed them until they collapsed. They did it to Bullfrog, they did it to Westworld Studios, the king of RTS games, and they haven't stopped. In 2017, they shut down Visceral Games, the makers of Dead Space. I mean, granted, Dead Space 3 felt a little off and the ending was kind of anticlimactic, but that aside, Visceral Games was shut down when they were in mid-development of a Star Wars game, but because it was not live service enough, they shut it down. I mean, look at this. As recent as May 2025, EA prepared to close the Codemasters office and cut around 400 employees. They bought Codemasters for the racing magic, F1, dirt, greed, and now they're moving the leftovers to EA Sports and calling it a day. Oh, and it gets worse. In June 2025, they put the plug on Cliffhanger Games. This studio was 2 years deep in developing a Black Panther game. 2 years of work, gone. Not because it was bad, but because EA wants to focus on growth opportunities like Apex Legends and Battlefield. So let's do the math. In 2025 alone, we're talking about hundreds of families destabilized, 300 to 400 here, another 100 there. Also, the spreadsheets look cleaner for the next quarterly report. These aren't just numbers, they are artists who made the games that you love. So what is the result of all this greed? It's stagnation. Apex Legends is declining, EA Sports FC, formerly FIFA, is facing softer sales than expected. They basically revised their 2025 forecast downward. When you treat players like ATMs and your stuff like batteries in the machine breaks, the trust is gone. And now the final punchline came in late 2025. A consortium led by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund and Silver Lake bought EA for $55 billion. Think about that. Private equity looked at this mess and said, perfect. They don't care about your nostalgia. They don't care about Dragon Age or The Sims. They see a company that has already proven it can survive any PR disaster and keep printing money from addicts and fanboys. EA didn't just ruin its reputation by accident. They burned it to the ground on purpose. They traded creative integrity for loot boxes. They traded employee warfare for stock buybacks. They took beloved studios and turned them into fuel for the corporate engine. And now they belong to the vultures. So, if you're tired of seeing your favorite hobby get turned into a casino, smash that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments, when was the moment you gave up on EA? Was it The Sims launch, Battlefront 2, or watching them bury some of your favorite studios? This has been Robocop Phoenix. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.